What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. You can find the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. Finally, was able to finish up my grades for this week. Today, we're going to be taking a quick look at the top performers, the bottom performers. We'll look at PFF's grades. We'll look at my grades, how they compared, what was the same, what was different, some of the players that helped themselves in this preseason game, and some of the players that hurt themselves. The thing that most of you should want to hear, some of you may not want to hear, is that despite it being a very ugly game, no question about it, there was actually some really important performances from some young players in this game that are actually something to really take away. And we'll talk about that momentarily. Before we get there, today's show is presented by Luigi's Frozen Pizza. If you haven't checked these out yet, guys, what are you doing? One of my favorite things, this is the nerdiest thing ever, is getting in the pizza aisle and just standing in front of the Luigi section and just trying to decide for the week which ones are going to be the ones that we make for the family. And those moments too where they need a little pick-upper or like something is exciting and we have our victory pizza, whatever it might be. The Luigi's Pizza aisle is the one, and just standing in front of that freezer aisle and just having heaven's gates open up and the love of Luigi's shine down upon you. What more could you possibly want in life? So check it out, luigispizza.com. And of course, follow them on social media at Luigi's Pizza. Today, as I mentioned, we're going over the grades. You will be able to check out every single graded player over at packerreport.com. So head over there and I'll have the full grades. It'll be the video today, but it'll also then have every single player and what every single player's grades were. So we're going to be going over the noteworthy ones today, but if you want every single one, again, you can find them at packerreport.com. I think it's a reminder one more time that this is really what preseason is truly for. It's not indicative of team performance. You're not game planning. You're not scheming. You're not drawing up plays specifically to beat the opponent. You're trying to evaluate players. You're trying to stay healthy and you're trying to evaluate players while also not giving away any sort of, game plan or plays that you might run consistently. It's very vanilla, very basic, and you're just trying to get out of there as healthy and with as many evaluations as possible. And like I said, I do think we actually got some pretty positive evaluations. We also got some evaluations on players who didn't play well, which is as important to the process as anything else. So we'll get through all of those today. And as I mentioned, there were a lot of fun players in this one that actually did grade pretty well. So let's get into it. The top 5 on offense per PFF. There's a very interesting one right at the top that we're going to dive into a little bit. Their highest graded player in this game, Zach Tom, 81.6, followed by Amar Johnson, 79.5. And this is just for offense, I should mention. Jordan Morgan, 76.5, Messiah Swinson, 72.5, and Will Shepard, 71.6. So Zach Tom, Amar Johnson, Jordan Morgan, Messiah Swinson, and Will Shepard, their top 5. My top 5 in this game, Amar Johnson with a 0.55 grade, Jordan Morgan with a plus 0.4. By the way, if you want to know what these grades mean, you can check PFF's grading system on their website. On that article on packerreport.com, you can check how I put my grades together. But Amar Johnson, 0.55, Jordan Morgan, 0.4, Sean Ryan, plus 0.3, John Fitzpatrick, 0.15, and then Matthew Golden and like 20 other players, plus 0.1 on the day at number 5. So Amar Johnson, Jordan Morgan, Sean Ryan, John Fitzpatrick, and Matthew Golden. Morgan and Amar Johnson, the only two that we agreed on in our top 5, both of them came in the top 3. Johnson and Morgan, 2 and 3 for them. Johnson and Morgan, 1 and 2 for me. And then some differentiators. Spoiler alert, their top player, Zach Tom, 81.6, was actually my 5th or tied for 4th lowest graded player at negative 0.45. Same thing with Messiah Swinson. Their 4th highest graded player was also tied at 4th lowest at negative 0.45. As you'll see, and as we get to the defense, we agreed on the defense on a lot of these players. And even again, Amar Johnson and Jordan Morgan both agreed upon as well. Usually not Zach Tom, usually PFF and I are pretty close in our overall evaluations. Zach Tom, I have no idea how you got to him being one of the higher graded players in this game. Did allow an immediate pressure in this game and just kind of got beat up in pass protection. The run blocking was not terrible, but in pretty minimal playing time, had a couple bad plays in this game. So I don't know how you watch that one and get to the highest graded player. If you wanted to say like, hey, it kind of evened out, I could probably buy that argument. But for me, it was actually, again, my 4th lowest graded player tied with Messiah Swinson. Messiah Swinson as their 4th highest graded player, just stunned by. I did not see it at all. I thought he had a really, really tough performance and a very, very minimal playing time. I'll just put it that way. But we don't need to spend time on those as much. Amar Johnson, a really impressive performance. We saw the big running play. He had 2 plays that were called back by penalty, a little pass and then one run up the middle that were both called back via holding penalties. He could have even had a couple more explosive plays in that box score had it not been for a couple penalties. And you might argue, well, had it not been for the penalties, they may not have resulted in explosive plays, which is true, but he still did his job on both of those particular plays. Jordan Morgan has to be the one offensively that you're very excited about. And I think one of the things that's really exciting about the performance is he had a little bit of a tough performance at family night. And specifically, not getting his hands up, exposing his chest a little bit. He still exposed his chest a little bit in this game, but the footwork was still really good. He carried that over, and his handwork was better. Is it idealistic? Is it perfect? Is it look like a 10-year veteran, David Bakhtiari? No, right? But it was much better. And that's a step in the right direction. What you want to see from young players is taking what went wrong one week, correcting it, and making it better the next. And I did think we saw that from Jordan Morgan to the point where just pure looking the part, he looked like a left tackle in this game. And for a while now, there was a lot of question as to like, is he just a guard? Like he kind of might just be a guard. This was a really positive step for Jordan Morgan. Now he's going to have to stack that. He's going to have to do that consistently. And there's going to be much better pass rushers that he faces over the course of time. But to get that initial preseason game under his belt and come away looking as good as he did and just looking like, hey, yeah, he looks like a left tackle. I feel like that's a very important step for Jordan Morgan in this game. So again, PFF's 3rd highest, my 2nd highest graded player. Then for me, Sean Ryan, I thought he had a really nice performance. There was the one play that resulted in I think it might have even been the sack fumble, but definitely was involved in a sack. But outside of that, I thought he had a really nice performance, and both at center and guard looked like he could play at either of those. And really, if you take him just at right guard, I thought that's where he looked really impressive. And at times, I thought looked like one of Green Bay's best offensive linemen out there and continues to grow and get better. So a little bit of a hiccup here and there at center, but at right guard where he's primarily going to be playing, I thought he looked really good. John Fitzpatrick continues to play well, plus 0.15. I had the nice reception, and I thought he did okay as a blocker. And then Matthew Golden, the nice hands catch, drawing a pass interference as well from Sauce Gardner. Pretty solid day for his first day in preseason action also. So again, top 5, Amar Johnson, Jordan Morgan, Sean Ryan, John Fitzpatrick, and Matthew Golden. PFF's lowest graded players on offense. And I just want to be clear as we get to Mecole Hardman here, this does not include any special teams whatsoever. So if they did play on teams like Mecole Hardman's muff punt was not even included in this grade. Okay. Same thing for PFF. Their bottom 5, Tyler Cooper, 41.5, Mecole Hardman, 43.0, Romeo Doubs, 43.3, Donovan Jennings, 43.6, and Malik Heath, 45.5. A couple that echo here for sure. Malik Heath, negative 0.75. Mecole Hardman, negative 0.6. So 2 of the ones that were on theirs, Mecole Hardman being the 2nd lowest and Malik Heath being the 5th lowest. I had those 2 as my lowest graded players in this game. I had Jacob Monk, negative 0.55. That's a fun one to discuss that we'll get to in just a moment. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Messiah Swinson and Zach Tom were my 2 other lowest graded players. Hardman and Heath both had tough days. A lot of drops, couldn't get open. I thought Heath even struggled as a blocker, which was not normal for him. Just really rough tape for both of those players. Jacob Monk, the interesting thing with PFF not having them, him in their bottom 5, I think if most people just to the naked eye watch that game, like who had the worst day, a lot of people probably would have said Jacob Monk. I will actually say that the 3 or 4 bad plays were bad from Jacob Monk, which is why, to me, he's my 3rd lowest graded player in this game. But there was actually a decent amount of really good stuff from Jacob Monk, or at least like solid play in this, where if you're just seeing the negatives, yeah, it wasn't great. But there was actually a good chunk of plays that were actually good for him that did bump that grade up better than what you would have assumed it to be. I don't necessarily completely disagree with PFF not having him in the bottom 5. It was a bad day for Jacob Monk. I don't think anyone's going to argue otherwise, but there actually was surprisingly some good stuff on tape, both in the run game and in pass protection, where he did hold up well at the point of attack. So a little bit better for Jacob Monk than what probably met the eyes initially. And then I think the other one to discuss here, a couple of them, Tyler Cooper, they had it as their lowest graded player. What you have to remember is PFF's is kind of like averaged. So if you were in for like 10 snaps and played really bad in those 10 snaps, you're going to have a very bad grade. For me, if you had 10 snaps and you were bad in it, you're going to probably have a bad grade, but it's tough to accumulate enough negatives in 10 snaps to be at the very bottom. I thought actually Tyler Cooper, if you're averaging it out and weighing it based on how many snaps they played, I agree with their assessment. I thought Tyler Cooper had a really, really tough day. Now he's a undrafted free agent, but here's the thing. I thought of the UDFAs coming out, Tyler Cooper, JJ Lippy, Brant Banks, I thought on tape in college, he looked like the most promising one of them. And let's be real. There is real opportunity on this offensive line right now. Kadeem Telford does not look great. Donovan Jennings does not look great. Travis Glover is out for the season with an injury. Jacob Monk just had a tough game. There's real opportunity where if you found a undrafted free agent that you liked of that trio and Tyler Cooper looks like he might be that guy coming out of college, there's that space for advancement. You can be on the 53 and Tyler Cooper, tough game for him. Hopefully he can bounce back in game 2. So again, for them, and then again, we know Hardman and Heath. Donovan Jennings, there was a couple good plays, but you could tell he did struggle. Don't have any major issue with PFF's grade there. And then, of course, Romeo Doubs with a big drop when given the opportunity and couldn't get off of coverage on another one. Not necessarily an ideal day for him either. So no real disagreements on PFF's bottom 5. Again, for me, Heath, Hardman, Monk, Swinson, and Zach Tom, my bottom 5 in this particular game. One other noteworthy player on offense, Anthony Belton. Anthony Belton had a 65.9 grade for PFF. Remember, their average grade is about 60. So he was a slightly above average. I had him with a slightly below average, negative 0.2 grade in this game. So much promise in this game from Anthony Belton. Far from perfect. Going to need some technique work. Going to need to put some time in and just kind of figure out the nuances of offensive line play. But holy crap, could you see the vision? Multiple big blocks, pancakes, driving guys off the line of scrimmage, just stuff that you don't necessarily, see a ton of from a traditional Packers offensive line. You can see why they like him. He has the power. He's got really great bulk at the position. It's tough to get around him. And if you fight him in a phone booth, more often than not, you're going to lose. The footwork needs to get a little bit better. The hand placement needs to get a little bit better. There are a couple of times where he ends up very high and wide with his hands that is just going to draw holding penalties as time goes on. But the vision of Anthony Belton was very promising in this game, even if there's a couple of technique things that he ultimately needs to clean up. All right, top 5 on defense for PFF: Kingsley Enagbare, Tyron Hopper, Kalen King, Jared Bartlett, and Carrington Valentine. Enagbare with a 90.1, 88.6 for Hopper, 78.9 for King, 73.0 for Bartlett, and 71.5 for Valentine. For me, top 5: Kingsley Enagbare, plus 0.75. Kalen King, plus 0.45. Tyron Hopper, plus 0.4. So our top 3 were the same, just Hopper and King were switched at 2 and 3. Enagbare was best for both of us. Carl Brooks, I had at plus 0.35, and then Baron Sorrell at plus 0.25. Enagbare, let's start with him. Phenomenal game. Should be noted, we can give all the caveats in the world. It should be noted that backup offensive linemen, usually pretty bad. And Kingsley Enagbare, who has started in this league, got to go against some backup offensive tackles and quite frankly, beat the crap out of them. I mean, in that world, he looked pretty unstoppable. But either way, you can only, go against the guy that's across from you. And consistently throughout the day, he was winning in run defense. He was winning in pressure. He was winning in every facet of the game. And Enagbare was showing up over and over and over again. Of all the Baron Sorrell and Brenton Cox and, some of the defensive tackle talk that we talked about from this game, I don't think Enagbare quite got the attention for just how dominant he was, albeit against second stringers for the most part, but still a really impressive performance from Kingsley Enagbare. Tyron Hopper was pretty much everywhere. And the thing I liked about it is he was willing to take on some blocks, shed them, go make plays. He didn't have really many, maybe at 1 or 2 where he kind of took a false step here or there, but was really getting to his spot as needed. Looked like he was in control of the middle of the defense. I thought it was a really sound performance overall from Tyron Hopper. Then Kalen King had the play in the end zone towards the end of the game where he batted it away, had another pass breakup, was consistent in run defense, had no issues coming off the edge as a slot guy and helping out as a tackler. I thought just a really impressive performance overall from Kalen King and somebody that helped their status in this game for trying to make the 53-man roster. So top 3, Enagbare, Hopper, King, Enagbare, King, Hopper for both of us, both again, PFF and I. For them, Jared Bartlett was an interesting one in this game. Don't hate their grade of him here. He had one really fun play as a rusher of all things, where he dipped under the tackle and like made his way to the quarterback. I'm like, what just happened? How did Jared Bartlett just do like a, Brian Burns, come around the edge, get low, dip around the corner and get like, I'm like, where did that come from? Had a couple nice plays in run defense. There were a couple plays later in the game where I dinged him a little bit on the negative side, which brought my grade a little bit lower for him. But he definitely caught the eye on a couple different occasions. And quite frankly, completely, and I mean completely, outperformed Jamon Johnson. We'll talk about that momentarily. Carrington Valentine was good. Carl Brooks, this was, I thought, the best that I've seen him. Now, it's always tough in practice. You don't have all 22. It's tough to see inside. It's not like I'm specifically watching Carl Brooks, but this was a nice performance from him. And then Barron Sorrell, we saw it. There were on run defense some plays where he got a little bit overwhelmed, but as a pass rusher, showed off multiple pass moves and the ability to win in a variety of different ways. Thought that was a very promising performance from Barron Sorrell as well. On the negative side, Jamon Johnson, their lowest graded player, 25.3. Isaiah Simmons, 29.4. Isaiah Dunn, 30.1. Deslin Alexander, 35.0. And James Esther, 44.9. The only one I disagree with a little bit, I didn't think Esther was that bad. I thought he was actually fine in pretty limited playing time. The rest I would agree with. Jamon Johnson, my lowest graded player, negative 0.6. So we were in lockstep there. Isaiah Dunn, my second lowest graded player at negative 0.3. He was their third. Then I had Nazir Stackhouse, negative 0.25. Deslin Alexander, negative 0.2. So the same player there. And then Tyron Herring at negative 0.2. Let's talk about Jamon Johnson. Just looked like his head was completely swimming, missteps, false steps, getting blocked at the point of attack, not being there when he needed to be in the run game, not necessarily always where he's supposed to be in coverage. Just a tough performance. Most people have talked about the Isaiah Simmons game ad nauseum. I don't think we need to dig into it too much. I actually thought there was a little bit more on tape from Isaiah Simmons that actually had some positive connotation to it. The negatives were bad. If you want to easily put him in the top 5, I don't have any major disagreement with that whatsoever. I just had a few positives that were a little bit better than I think maybe PFF gave him credit for, that most people maybe saw just on the really bad plays that he had out there. And then Isaiah Dunn struggled in coverage, got beat on a couple plays and just didn't have to pay for it. Of course, by now Isaiah Dunn no longer actually on the team. Deslin Alexander struggled on the outside. I thought he looked a little bit bulkier than what we've maybe seen in the past. So that was an interesting one. He was a player that I thought has flashed in camp on a variety of different occasions, although I did give the caveat against third and fourth stringers. It's different when you're not going against, some of those guys in an actual game situation. And then Tyron Herring, I thought, had a couple, tough plays in coverage as well. As far as some of the noteworthy ones here, let me talk about Stackhouse really quick. With Nazir Stackhouse, there were a couple plays. He got blown off the ball and really struggled against double teams and just really holding his ground on multiple occasions. For what it's worth, PFF did not have a good grade on him either. They gave him a 48.7 on the day. A lot of buzz lately about Nazir Stackhouse. I think there's been a lot of positives at practice. This was a game, just to remind you, there's still a ways to go. And if you're hoping that he can just be this big run stuffer inside, he's got to play with much better leverage, much better pad level, and just be able to anchor at the point of attack. He struggled quite a bit. There were a couple plays here and there, that 4th and 1, he helped out and to help make that stop. But outside of that, too many times pushed off of his spot and is going to need to anchor much, much better. Some noteworthy things. To me, Brinson was much better than Nazir Stackhouse in this game. And Colby Wooden, I would say even better than either of them. For me, Colby Wooden, a plus 0.2, Brinson, a plus 0.1, Stackhouse, a negative 0.25. PFF had Brinson just a little bit better. I saw so much more upside and potential from Brinson in this game than I did from Stackhouse. To me, if I were ranking it after watching that game, I mean, you've got Clark and Wyatt, and then Brooks was the next best in this game, followed by Wooden, followed by Brinson, and then a gap, and then Stackhouse, and then everyone else after that. I've talked about, I think, Stackhouse, just some of the stuff that he's already shown in camp. I don't know that I want to release that and let it go to waivers, but if I had to not keep 6 defensive tackles and stay with 5, Stackhouse would probably be the one for me that is off that list based off of this particular preseason performance. And quite frankly, I think just based on overall talent level, doesn't mean I don't like Stackhouse, doesn't mean I don't think he can get in that conversation, but I still think he's got some development to go. And if I were betting today, I think there's probably a better chance that he's on the practice squad than anything else. Bo Melton, much talked about, right? 51.6 grade from PFF, negative 0.05 grade from me, slightly below average grade here, which for somebody playing corner for the first time in the NFL is still really, really impressive, especially with how many snaps that he got. He was physical, he was attacking, really missed one big tackle on the day, gave up one completion that probably should have been tighter coverage. Outside of that, definitely looked the part. And I'm excited to see if he can kind of gain a little bit more experience, learn from maybe a couple of the mistakes in this one, and take that into preseason week 2. Final thoughts here. Some real positive takeaways. Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton, Kingsley Enagbare, Tyron Hopper, Kalen King, Barron Sorrell, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, Amar Johnson, Sean Ryan, Matthew Golden. That's a good list of young players who played well in this game. That if you were going into this game and handpicking which young players you would like to see play well, there's a lot of those players that we just named that actually did have positive performances in this game. Handful of players definitely hurt themselves, including Malik Heath, McCole Hardman, Jacob Monk, and Isaiah Simmons. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for joining me on this second episode on this Wednesday, August 13th. I'll see you guys very soon. Shout out to our All-Pro and Hall of Fame members, PJ Wynn, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Wong, Peter Rataka, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Gessford, Dylan Patscott, SoCal Pack, Chris Rager, Izzy Roberts, Ian Ewing, Carlo Delgado, Willie Winkle-Stinkle, Jen Wright, The Gable Storm, Pack Attack Cast, Chris Weish, and Craig. I'll see you guys soon, but until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.